Well, what's up guys, Vince here, and now it is Halloween, and this is going to be a special Halloween going on for today. So I figured, you know what, this is actually a first that I've done this, is actually talk about, since it is basically Halloween, do a quick little something on, say, my top 5, or at least top games, horror games that I actually favorite to me personally. Now there's a lot of games that actually did come out that I haven't played yet, and that's the new Amnesia Rebirth, and that's Resident Evil 3. I only played the demo. I haven't got a chance to play the game actually, which is why we haven't filmed it. We were planning to film it for Halloween, but lo and behold, other things are happening, and we had to finish Death Stranding. We had to get that out of the way. And also, a lot of stuff in fighting games that I actually enjoy playing, that I actually have a fun time doing, let alone Power Rangers. Mortal Kombat 11 is having some new stuff, and some other news are way ahead. Let alone next gen, basically around the corner. So I figure right now, with everything that's going on, I'll share a little first making tier maker list on basically my favorite personal horror games of all time. So right now, all I have is the Resident Evil games. Well, I should say this right now. This is just all horror games that are basically out there, and I'm pretty sure there's some games out there that was not part of I don't know, it never came over here, or maybe it did, I don't know. But we're gonna start off with my favorite of what my series is my favorite Resident Evil games that I consider like super good. And as pretty much as you can tell, we're going Devil May Cry tier ranking for me personally. So as far as all the ones, I actually have to include every single one. So give me a sec. All right, so out of all the Resident Evil games that came out, or that have always been out, these are the ones that I have only played in my entire existence right now. I never got the chance to play Outbreak, Revelations, or any of these other weird games, let alone the pea shooters of Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles and stuff like that. I saw those and they did not look fun, but I did see Umbrella Chronicles, though that looked okay. What are they called? Light guns, the light gun games. But I heard Darkside Chronicles was just not fun, so that's why they're down there right now. And this is not just, again, this is not just about Resident Evil games. This is horror games originally, but we're starting off with my favorite series is the Resident Evil series. So what goes up top as my favorite horror of them all? That should be simple. That honestly should be simple. The first time, I can sum up a really fast history on this one. Resident Evil Remake, when I first saw it, I have already played Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 1, the original PS1 games, and as a little toddler, they freaked me the hell out. So little kid like that, you got freaked out a little bit. So, but Resident Evil 1 Remake, I did not know that this was actually a thing. And it was during a time where I did not pay attention to really a lot of gaming news. So it was always like looking forward just to the next game of either the series or just whatever's on the next line for me to own as a physical copy. It was always so exciting. This was a really cool hype, and I finally got the chance to play it, and it's on our channel too as we recorded. And I already played it like a few times just to get a handle of it. But I say, as far as horror games, Resident Evil 1 Remake is extremely great. It's up there on my list. Yeah. I don't know, this kind of, I don't know why this feels tough, but it shouldn't be tough. Yeah. Wow, this tier making thing is actually really tough. This is actually really tough. So... You know what? No. I'm gonna put Resident Evil 2 right next to Resident Evil 1 Remake because it's out of the entire game Resident Evil series, it is my personal favorite. I mean, I love Leon, I love Claire Redfield. That was a big hype to realize that Chris had a sister, and then and really roaming around the city for just a little bit, but it wasn't too much. I just realized in this entire list, I don't see Resident Evil 7. Yeah, Resident Evil 2 is, I'd say it has to be up there with Resident Evil 1 Remake. It's not this way. It's not that way. No, it's this way. It's this way because everything that they did in Resident Evil 1 when they remade everything, the environments in the game was just so amazing. It was so incredible. And it's, I would say if I go back to the game now, it would still be kind of pretty freaky because it's how many times you often go back to Resident Evil 1 Remake and just like think like I can buzz through this no matter what. It's like now if you go back again, you're still kind of jittery trying to remember everything else. But at least with Resident Evil 2, I can at least sort of speed run it, but at the same time I don't want to speed run it because I enjoy the game so much. And if I have to say, probably Resident Evil 2 Remake would have to be down here. And the reason why is that even though honestly like geez, why can't it be like this? I have to really be careful because I'm also including a lot of other horror games that I did get my hands on and played personally and finished them. Once I get the Resident Evils out of the way, then I can really map out other games that I can do. Resident Evil 2 Remake was, I mean, when that was finally announced after so long of waiting, I was extremely excited for it. Seeing Leon and Claire updated, Sherry looked amazing. I mean, all the characters that were going to be involved, looked great, and it was the new feel of what the RE engine was going to look like. At first, people were hoping, I remember a lot of people were hoping that it still stayed the same camera set as Resident Evil 2, like the old games would have. It's just the still cameras, you don't know what's around the corner. But what they did, of course, is that they went with the style of how Resident Evil 4 did it, but kept the horror in it, and it worked. It actually worked. Like you hated being in the rooms with the lickers, and how they did Mr. X was just phenomenal. You could not get away from him. The only bummer part about it is that it wasn't really what did they call it? It wasn't really a zapping system as you could see in the original one. The only difference on zapping system was just how they entered in the Raccoon City Police Department. That was the only difference. Maybe I should have done that in the first place. I know. And here's a little minor update for this channel is that we plan to play Resident Evil 4 for this channel. I actually want to play Resident Evil 4 for this channel. My little brother has not experienced it like he experienced Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 1. And let alone Devil May Cry series that he had. He was familiar with them, but he didn't really experience it like on hand or anything else like that. So, but for me personally, I heard about Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was basically like out of my head. Like I wasn't even, after Resident Evil 3 was already out, I wasn't involved with Resident Evil 3. By the time I came back to Resident Evil was Resident Evil 5 actually. believe it or not, by the time I came back to like trying out Resident Evil games, was when Resident Evil 5 was new. By the time Resident Evil 5 happened, I looked up and was going, oh, there was a Resident Evil 4? I did not know this. Now don't yell at me. Don't yell. Hold your horses. Because when I heard about Resident Evil 4 and the history of the reason why they went on Resident Evil 5 and kept it the same way is because me realizing and hearing from people why they're saying Resident Evil 4 is the best Resident Evil of all time. And that got me curious. So when I finally played Resident Evil 4, coming back with Leon and knowing that who the developers that were working on the game were technically the same group that worked on Devil May Cry 1, got me actually interested. And at the same time, I was like, oh, no wonder in Resident Evil 5 it's a totally different monster. What was the monster in Resident Evil 4? And that got me interested. And for Resident Evil 5, it's... yeah, it's right here. It's right here. Compared to everything else that's right now on the bottom, that's a little better, actually. I forgot that yes, this is Resident Evil 1, the original. If I had to pick, yeah, this is nice right here. Yeah, Resident Evil 1 being, of course, the first Resident Evil game ever from Capcom. It was exciting. It was hilarious to, as a kid, not really judging the whole beginning scenario of the live actors and things like that they were doing. Wasn't really paying attention to that as a kid. As a little, I was 5 years old. Yeah, I was 5 years old, and this game and Resident Evil 1 PS1 came out, and that beginning scenario freaked me out. But now you look at it now, it's the dumbest thing you've ever seen. But back to Resident Evil 5, it's down here because I played it co-op way later on, but I started playing this as a single player, and it was all right. And comparing it to Resident Evil 4, it's like, why was the inventory like so small compared to you upgrading your inventory in Resident Evil 4? Was like, oh, like, why? And then some of the levels in Resident Evil 5 were honestly kind of like draggy, and they're boring, and it's sort of like time consuming. You want to come on, let's go. Like, this fight's taking too long. There's too many hordes. It felt like that. It felt like that to me personally. Yeah. I played Resident Evil 3 Nemesis twice, and don't have huge fond memories. Would I go back to it? I have to get a feel for it. Like, going, you know what I want to play right now? I want to play Resident Evil 3, the original. Want to play Resident Evil 3, the original, and just just have my time. Not try to rush it, just play the game, remember how it is, and go through it. But I played it twice, beat it twice, and compared to all the other games, it's where it's at. Still a fun game. I'll have to try Resident Evil 3 Remake and see where I can stack it up here. Well, you know what? Since they don't have Resident Evil 7 anywhere in here, for some reason, if I have to put Resident Evil 7 on here, it's the fourth game. It would be right here. If Resident Evil 7 was a pick, it'd be right there. But there's no Resident Evil 7 on this list. As far as these three go, I'd say this is pretty simple. I'd say it's about right there. Now, why is Resident Evil 6 for me an A? Is that at first when I did play it, when it was coming out, and I was actually honestly excited for it, because the idea of you being able to play all your favorite characters in a game at first was kind of exciting. I'm going like, oh, I get to play a Leon campaign. I get to play a Chris campaign. I don't know who the hell Jake is. Oh, and if you beat all these, you get to play Ada. Maybe something like cool and secretive, that revealing of why Ada is Ada, you know? And didn't really come to that. And Ada's was just a weird, difficult, kind of like you don't want to continue it. As soon as you start it, you're like, I don't want to finish this. That first level was whack. Code Veronica I played twice, and at first in a young age, I think I was like in my, I don't think I was like 13 years old or something like that. It was probably it was rarely new when I finally got the hands on it back in when I on the PlayStation 2, and tried to play it once by myself, couldn't do it because it freaked me out. Played it again now. It was still kind of because at first I didn't complete it, and then got to play it again now. Got to finish it. Didn't realize how long it was, and now seeing why everybody hates Steve Burns, because he's just a whiny guy. He's just a complainer, and he ain't my favorite. But if they ever remade Resident Evil Code Veronica and made him actually a better character, I'm all for it. I am all for it. And Resident Evil 0, honestly, well, since this is all of the Resident Evil games I can pretty much just do, it'd be like, what? For me, it's what? Like, really? But I have to give credit where credit is due. It's still a great looking game. It's up there with Resident Evil 1 Remake, how great it looks. The two downsides are item inventory and buddy system mechanics. It's weird. It's very weird. But I got the feel of like, oh geez, now I understand why this is bad. But it's still a good looking game. Now, well, for a lot of people, they probably would go like this. They'd probably rather play Resident Evil 0 than Resident Evil Code Veronica, probably just because of Steve. But I have to go with this because at least Code Veronica has the item inventory. It has the item box. I can at least stash stuff and not have to worry about this room is full, go stash your stuff in another room. The Silent Hill series, I mean, I only played two. I looked at one and I played the demo, freaked me out, and I was not interested. But I saw Silent Hill 2 and I was actually really interested. I was really interested in Silent Hill 2. And it's up there. It's up there. Oh, Dead Space series. When the idea of Dead Space wanting to be this Event Horizon / Resident Evil 4 combination, immediately I was interested. The box art alone was like, this has to be freaky. Like, this has to be scary. And it was. When it was new, it was. You couldn't just shoot enemies. You had to shoot their limbs off to take them down. You didn't know what was real or what was not. When space was quiet and you're going through things and all you can hear is nothing. Mind-blowing. And I'd say Dead Space goes right here with these guys. All right, looked at this entire list and all these other games I've heard of. There's a lot of Dooms. I don't really consider them. Would you really consider Dooms horror? Now, these games I only played once. Out of these games, I only played once. Now, if I have to put them, out of the Fear series, I've only played 2. But I have seen 1 and I have seen 3. But I personally had my hands on Fear 2 and I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed Fear 2. It was one of those series that I heard about. Just the idea was just that it was just weird. It was weird, and like the further I got into Fear 2, the more I was actually driven. Like, I just kept going. I kept going and going and going. Like, I didn't feel bored. I didn't feel like, it's taking too long. No, the more I discovered, I was just like, okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Fear 2, out of all of them, I say is the best out of the entire series, and the entire trilogy. I say it's probably the best one because I had my hands on it. Fear 1 could probably change my mind, but I only saw a little bit of footage of it, And since it was a PC game, I didn't own a PC at the time to like really run the game, so I didn't really get my hands on it. And I was playing other things. I was playing Street Fighters and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. But whenever it came to Fear 2, finally playing it, it's up here with Dead Space 2. Like, I consider it really, it's actually one of my favorite horror games out there, which is why it's on this list. Condemned Criminal Origins. I'd say I probably would put this up there. Now, no matter how old that game is, it was jumpy. Like, I always said to myself, this feels like a video game created by Rob Zombie. Like, he had an idea, instead of just making Halloween movies or games, he just said, I always thought to myself, like, he can make a video game. And Condemned sort of felt like that. It felt like that. It felt like you were playing a game, you were going through a house of 1,000 corpses with devil's rejects and things like that, and it was just dark. And I really liked it. Like, you were scarce on your ammo, and it was again, it was dark, and you didn't know what was real or what was not. I remember running through some hallways, and you seeing some mannequins that are just around, and you couldn't tell what was real or what was not, because the bad guys would just either paint their faces, or they would wear the full-headed masks of mannequins, and then just stay in pose until you either got closer or that you triggered something, and then as you turn around, they're hopping out of their boxes far away, and you're just going, oh crap, that was a guy, and he's coming at you. He just doom, and it was freaky. And if you didn't have a gun, you had a pipe. You had to make sure that you were staying alive. So yeah, it's up there. And then they had Alien Isolation, and this goes for an Alien game, okay, I have to think. Out of all of the Alien games, it has to be, it should be up here. For the Alien games that came out, and for it, what it was doing, it should be up here. Because of fans, because of nostalgia, and the fact that it was completely new, and it sort of fit with the Alien story in the movies. It was sort of like an in-between, because you play as Ripley's daughter, searching for her mother and things like that, and it sort of set it up for a sequel, but it was never anything. For an Alien game in nostalgia, it's up here, but I'm an Alien fan and I love Predator. I personally put it up here. Yeah, and I played Alien Isolation once and beat it, and actually was happy with it. I was happy with it. It's one of my favorite Alien video games out there. Alien vs Predator is fun, but it's not up there. It's not up there. And I wouldn't consider Alien vs Predator a horror game. It's really just an action game. So basically, there you have it, guys. A first tier maker list I've ever done, and it's about horror games. Now, I would say this, tier list making is actually very interesting to me, because I get to really talk about why I like certain video games and why I mostly play them. Horror games, a horror series is one of them. Survival horror series is kind of one of them. And it's the same thing happens with fighting games. It's the same thing that happens with RPG games. It's the same thing that happens with puzzle games, old school first-person shooters. Like, what would I play? What would I go back to? And I'd say for tier maker, it for me personally, it kind of feels better to do it this way, and I actually enjoyed it. This is my first time ever doing it. I actually had fun doing it. because I get to explain a little more, get to talk a little more, and this is a little something special for you guys for Halloween. If you did like this video, guys, please give it a like, thumbs up, ring the bell. I don't know what's going on, but most importantly, if you did enjoy and you're not subscribed, do please hit that subscribe button for cool other content. Either it's LPs, fighting games, online matches, or little discussions like this. This is the first one, but I think I feel for more. Thanks guys for watching. You have yourself a nice, happy All Hallows Eve.